What's up, Total Human Optimizers? Here we are today with Austin Aries with a sick, modified, homemade, custom on it tank top. What's up? I like that, man.
Yeah, man.
Did you get the scissors? Did you get the scissors out yourself, or did you get your wife to do it for you, or what happened?
Oh man, no wife, no wife.
So you did it. You got the scissors out yourself.
Not even the scissors. They make this great tool. It's like a rotary cutter. It's a circle, man. You just zip, and it's done. Because I don't do well with sleeves, especially when I'm working out.
So is that specifically what that thing is for? Is taking sleeves off shirts? Because I need to have one if that's the case.
Well, yeah. I mean, back in the day, I had this idea I was going to make my own wrestling tights for a couple of months. So I bought a bunch of different equipment you'd make to tailor stuff. And after struggling through one pair and having them fall apart in 2 or 3 matches, I said maybe I'll leave it to the professionals. but I still got the rotary cutter, and it makes it really easy like that, because it's like cutting a pizza. You know, you just zip and it's done.
Your own homemade sleeve monster that can eat all the sleeves off your shirts before you go out.
That's it. And then wear them as headbands when you're working out.
All right, I like it. Well, you are correct me if I'm wrong, but a multiple-time champion in TNA Wrestling. Have held multiple belts. And been a supporter of our products, and are also, surprisingly, for someone of your size, you're vegetarian or vegan? That's the word on the street?
Yeah.
Vegan.
Yeah, I cut meat out in 2000, and about 3 years ago I cut all the dairy and the eggs out, which, you know, at the time the biggest difference was getting rid of my whey proteins and looking for plant-based proteins. And that's where something like the On and Hemp Force was a revelation, you know, as far as using it as a supplement for protein.
Yep. So take us through that decision. What was what was some of your thinking behind it? Is it health related? Is it other reasons?
Yeah, you know what? I just think it's a combination of a bunch of things, and I don't want to get on a soapbox and make anybody feel like I'm preaching to them. But I think that, you know, if we were to take the time to take a closer look at the corporate food system that's in place now, and what we're told our diet should consist of, I think we'd see that there's a lot of inaccuracies, and it's a lot of what's contributing to a lot of the health problems that we face as a whole. And you know, so I think the health was definitely a big factor in it. I think also for me personally, you know, the idea of eating another living creature or contributing it to its you know, torture, for lack of a better term, is kind of off-putting. So it gives me peace of mind to be able to sit down and have a meal and know nothing had to suffer for me to actually sustain my own life.
You could always get like a chicken coop in your backyard, you know, and you could pet them. You could put on movies for them. You guys could watch some like Tom and Jerry and stuff. And then and then they lay some eggs, and then you eat the eggs, and it's like a big happy family at Austin Aries' backyard. You know,
you could, and then eventually when you have to, like, you know, slit its throat or break its neck or whatever.
Who says you got to do that? You know, they could just peacefully lay eggs until they're too old to lay eggs, and then move on.
No, you could. You know what, man? I have what I call overactive brain syndrome. I think about shit too much, and when I start thinking about what the egg is, and analyze.
Oh yeah, you know, you can't do that. You got to stop yourself right there. You got to draw a hard line when you start thinking about what the yolk is and what the white is. That's an egg, man. That's an egg. Right. That's as far as you go from there.
Why don't we go around taking like women's placentas and fry them up? I'm sure that's got a lot of good protein in it too. I mean,
wait a minute, you don't do that?
No, not anymore.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I mean, a good placenta pancake. I mean, how do you top that?
Hey, lean protein, bro. That's all that matters, right?
I mean, you can make like an omelet out of it. You know, you put the egg, you put actual human ovary eggs into the placenta, and then you roll it. And it's really quite delicious.
Really fluffy too, fluffier than you think it would be for a placenta pancake.
There's gonna be that one idiot out there that hears just this portion of the podcast and they're like, "Oh, we gotta start eating placentas."
He's calling up all the hospitals right now, like, "Hey, do you guys?" So, were there any actual placentas laying around from some births that you guys had today at all?
Well, actually, I mean, we're joking about it, but there's some cultures that eat placentas for sure.
Absolutely, out of necessity, and I think that our diet that we adhere to today obviously came from necessity at a certain point in time. But you know, my grandparents had a farm growing up, and when I realized that the food that we get is nothing like, it ain't coming from my grandpa's farm, because those farms don't really exist anymore. It's corporate food system, and it's all about profit. They don't look at animals as another living creatures. They're simply commodities. And, you know, corporations don't have conscience. And so if we're putting our health and our well-being in the hands of people who don't care about us, we need to think about that, because not only it's not what you eat, but it's what you eat, what they eat, and the conditions that they're raised in. And so I think when people start peeling back some layers to the actual quality and the health of the food that we're eating, I think they'd be very surprised to understand the methods of how that food gets there.
No doubt. I mean, I think that's one of our really important messages, whether you decide to, you know, abstain from those types of foods entirely, or whether you're selecting foods that represent, you know, animals that have been taken care of well and haven't been treated with RBGH and antibiotics and all the hormones and things like
hormones,
that.
Yeah. I mean, they're pumping chickens up so fast. I mean, you know, it's, you know, you're talking about the equivalent of like a 300-pound 3-year-old by the time that they actually, you know, because again, it's all about the profit margin. And again, I don't sit here and try to tell anybody to change their lifestyle. What I try to do is share my journey and why I chose what I did, and then just tell everybody that, you know, take a look at your own diet and maybe take a different perspective to it. Because if everybody, you know, we have this mindset that when we sit down, and I grew up in the Midwest, man, brats and cheese and beer, you know, that was life.
Cheese curds, baby, cheese curds.
Cheese, man. I went to a Whole Foods in Milwaukee. It was like the biggest Whole Foods. It's like, man, this is gonna be a great Whole Foods. There was very little for like the vegans, but there was a huge like cheese section. Like it was like special cheeses, because
they know what's up. They're trying to make some money too.
I'm trying to find the human milk cheese, and I can't find that.
Placenta, why human milk cheese.
Well, is that weird? It's weird if it comes from a human's breast, but not from a cow's udder. That doesn't compute to me. But no, I think it's just about, you know, maybe reprocessing the idea of what a meal has to be. Not every meal has to have a piece of dead flesh on the plate. Not every meal has to have something that comes from an animal. We can sustain and have a healthy diet that comes from plant sources. And not to say that you have to go all the way 100% like I have or other people have. But if you start to implement those things, or just starting to kind of, you know, open your eyes to that possibility, I think would have a huge impact overall, just not only on people's health, but the environment and obviously the well-being of the animals. That's why something like Meatless Mondays is cool, because it's just saying, hey, take a day out of the week and you know, try to abstain from meat for one day. Because once you do it for one day, you realize it's not that arduous of a task, and you can actually, you know, implement it more often if you want.
Yeah, and you look at, you know, people sometimes panic when they don't have, you know, an ample amount of protein on their plate. They think like all their muscle is going to completely shrink away. You know, it's like, I'll turn into, you know, I'll lose 10 pounds today, at least today. Sure. You know, but that's really not the case.
No, man, that's propaganda. I mean, that's being sold to you by the people who are selling you protein products. Because, listen, if you're a high level athlete and you're weight training and you're exercising, you need an ample amount of protein if you want to build muscle. But for the normal person who just lives a regular lifestyle, they don't need a lot of protein in their diet. But they've been told now that that's the way to stay lean, is to ramp up the protein and cut down the carbs and the fat. And to me, that's misguided, because, you know, our brain functions run on carbohydrates. So if you're limiting your carbohydrates, you're kind of turning yourself a little stupid. And protein is one of the harder things for the body to digest. So for a normal everyday person, the idea that you need these copious amounts of protein is just it's off base. And then even for high level athletes, you know, like myself, there's other protein sources than strictly from animals. And obviously, you know, hemp protein is a great source. They make pea and rice protein. I mean, there's a lot of other sources of protein other than a steak.
Sure. And I think, you know, overall message that people can get from this, I mean, I'm certainly not a vegan. I like to, you know, have my grass-fed beef and some free-range chicken eggs and things like that, and that's an important part of my diet. Grass-fed butter is also, you know, something I'm having on a regular basis. But whatever you're doing, just be conscious of it. Don't listen to the conventional story that's telling you one thing or another. Listen to both your body and do some research into you know, what you're putting in, even from, you know, a bit of an energetic level. You know, are you ingesting an animal that has been tortured during its life? You know, I mean, maybe that's a little bit harder to test for, you know, like animal suffering. You know, you can't find that compound that comes out in suffering, but the adrenaline, all of the things that are released naturally from an unhealthy animal, an unhealthy psyche that goes into that product that you're ingesting, whatever that may be, You know, I mean, you can test on humans. When a human is stressed out, look at them if they're constantly stressed. The adrenal fatigue, everything about their body is not going to be in optimal shape. It's going to be the same with an animal. If that animal is miserable, you know, that's going to pass on in small, minute ways in through, let alone their diet. You know, I mean, even something like beef, if you're looking at a nutrient like CLA, which is a really important nutrient for a variety of reasons, a cow that's been fed simply corn is not going to have any of that. But a cow that's been fed grass and been allowed to roam around and get his normal diet, that meat is going to pass on that important nutrient to you. So definitely an important message.
And you're talking about genetically modified corn, which now you're going to a whole nother.
Now it's getting even worse.
And then to your point right there too. I mean, if you know, in the spiritual realm, you know, I make that connection as well to, you know, you talk about, you know, contributing to the torture or mistreatment of other creatures and ingesting that or whatever. And spiritually, there's a connection there too that I think sometimes people try to, you know, bury their head in the sand to that. You know, I've heard a lot of people, they talk, oh, I love animals. I love pets, the cats and the dogs. And you know, I go, well, what about the cows and the pigs? I don't want to think about that. It's like, well, sometimes you need to think about that a little bit, you know, and honestly, if you don't know where your products are coming from, you can just assume they are being tortured and mistreated because that's become the norm of the industry.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it. And it's because we consume so much that they have to use those methods to output what we need for the, you know, the demand. And so that's why I say if we all changed our thought process and our diets a little bit, it would have an overall huge impact, you know, because it would reduce the amounts and then the methods that they need to use. So
and you can still have huge pythons like Austin Aries. You can still ride Harleys on the weekend. You know, it's cool.
Yes, man. Oh yeah.
You don't have to give in your man card. You know, if you're a vegan.
You still have muscles. You can have a fucking manly beard. You know, you can have all that shit. You know, like, yeah, you know, I'm like the antithesis of what people think about when they think of a vegan.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's
I'm not even like a pet person. Like I don't like to eat animals or like contribute to the torture, but I'm not like, oh, the dog is so cute. Come here. Like, it's cool. Like dogs are cool. My lifestyle isn't conducive to having pets. You know, pets are cool, but I'm not a huge animal rights activist in that sense, you know, like I just feel right, you know, I don't feel right contributing to that. And I have a choice not to, which is cool. And we're lucky enough in this country, especially, that we do have a choice, you know, and, you know, like you said, a lot of other countries, you know, that's a way of life. And here, like, if you seek it out, there are alternatives. And the one other point I always like to make, because I hear this one all the time, is people go, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy, you know? Well, it's also expensive to sit in line for 6 hours for the new iPhone 6. You know, it's
also expensive to get health care for the second half of your life.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, you can pay a little more an hour, pay a lot later in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But you know, I had someone say to me once, "It's so expensive to eat healthy," and I thought to myself, "You drive a nice car, you live in a nice house, you wear nice clothes. When it comes to food, you want the cheapest, easiest, most convenient thing possible." And that seems to be a mantra of society when it comes to food. It's like, well, what's the cheapest and easiest and most convenient? And you know, I guess my thing is I like nice food. Like if I'm going to put my money somewhere, I would rather buy nice food than a nice new pair of jeans or a nice new pair of shoes. Mm-hmm. You know, because to me, like the body is the most important, you know, thing you have is to take care of, and
sure.
You know, you can put designer clothes on an unhealthy body, and it doesn't really matter.
Still doesn't look good. Yeah.
Still doesn't look good, and it doesn't feel good, you know? Yeah. So I just think that people, you know, when you think about where you're going to spend your resources, where you're going to allocate your money, I think that it's short-sighted to try to cut back on the food, you know, the food part. And that, to me, that's where I'm never going to skimp on the food. I'm always going to look for good deals and shop smart, but I'm not going to, you know, just like if you go to buy a car, you're not trying to find where's the old Ford Tempo I can get for $600.
I don't even know what that car is.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
yeah. Your clothes analogy is great. I mean, people are like, oh, you know, what's the best T-shirt? What's the most stylish T-shirt? You know what the most stylish T-shirt is? The one that's put on the person that's done about 10,000 pull-ups.
Or for Aubrey, no T-shirt.
Oh yeah, Lando. That's what I'm talking about. Right.
I mean,
we should just do a shirtless podcast every once in a while.
Let's not do that.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind. That was a bad idea.
That one I don't do for free, guys.
Funny.
So I think we've all seen it though. You know, we've seen the person who's extremely unhealthy and overweight, but they've spent at least 45 minutes doing their hair, putting their makeup on, or putting their clothes and their outfit together. Like somehow it's, that's going to fool me from the rest of you.
Right, right.
Oh,
Totally.
okay, we got lipstick now. Lipstick on a pig, still a pig, as they say.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about your story, man. I mean, you've obviously made it to, a pinnacle in a field that's extremely competitive, extremely difficult. So, tell us how that came about.
Well, I grew up, I think about 4 or 5 years old. I kind of got bit by the wrestling bug, just seeing it on TV, and it just kind of captivated me. At the time, I didn't think about, is it real or is it not real, or any of those things. It was just this, I always grew up an athlete. I enjoyed entertainment, I was in choir and different things of that sort. So to me, like the theatrics of the athletic competition component to it was just kind of a cool, combination of all these things that really grabbed me. So I grew up a huge wrestling fan. It wasn't necessarily something that you advertised, because it wasn't always cool to be a wrestling fan back in the day. It wasn't until I got to college when everybody was, telling everybody else to suck it and know your role, when it became kind of mainstream. But the idea of actually getting into the business never really crossed my mind, because back then, pre-internet, you didn't have all the information at your fingertips, and the idea of, like, how would you even get into the wrestling business, that itself was kind of secretive. It wasn't something you just type in your Google and find out where there's 100 different wrestling schools. So
right.
That never crossed my mind. I grew up playing baseball predominantly. I played a little football and things like that, but really focusing on baseball, and went to college for that at Winona State University, which is in Minnesota. But, college life, first day there, fake ID, a couple of parties, change the course and the direction a little bit. Went from going to play baseball to, beer league softball sounds cool, like it's a less commitment.
Right.
So anyway, just, through those years, because, like, I didn't want to go to college, but that's what you're told you're supposed to do, right? That's the journey, right? You go to schools, then you go to schools, then you get a job to pay off for all your school. It's the great American dream,
Mm-hmm.
And, but, so through that process, I just, was trying to find out who I was and what I wanted to do with life. And, I got caught up doing some things that probably didn't have a whole lot of upside to them, and a lot of risk involved. And luckily for me, before I really went fully down that route, I got a call from a lifelong friend of mine who I'd known since 3rd grade. And he was training to be a wrestler in Minneapolis, which was a few hours from me. And, at first I didn't believe him, because I said, what do you mean you're just training to be a wrestler? Like, so I went up and checked it out, and I saw the ring set up in Minneapolis in this little garage, and Eddie Sharkey and Terry Fox were the trainers. Eddie Sharkey's known for training a lot of guys out of the Minnesota area, like the Road Warriors and Rick Rude and, X-Pac and things like that. So I was familiar with the name. But, the moment I saw the ring set up, I kind of knew that my path had found me. And I moved up on my buddy's couch a couple weeks later and just started the journey of the wacky world of pro wrestling. And 14 years later, man, I'm happy. It's provided a good living for me. It's allowed me to travel the world and make a lot of cool connections with a lot of other cool people doing good shit. So I'm really thankful for that. And honestly, I got a lot more left in my tank. So I'm looking forward to the next 14 years.
Yeah, that's great, man. One thing that's always impressed me about wrestlers is the durability that you guys have to focus on, and that's something that I'm really focusing on now in my athletic career. Not that I'm professional or cameras are on me or anything, but I just want to be able to do what I love to do for as long as possible. So durability has become a huge part of what I'm doing. So take us through some of those tips, and tips that other people back listening can get from, because you guys are taking a beating constantly, so you have to keep your body balanced and in good shape.
I'll be honest. I think it's one thing that the industry's been kind of lagging behind a little bit. I've talked with some other friends of mine in the business about it. In baseball, a guy goes and throws a couple of innings of relief, and the minute he comes off the mound, he's got ice on his arm, and then he goes to the training room afterwards and gets taken care of. And and things are starting to change in wrestling. But for a long time, it was you would go wrestle and then you'd shower up and go to the bar. It was, or you drive to the next town. There wasn't facilities in the back of the arena where you'd take an ice bath and do these things. And it's something that the guys I've seen that have been able to have a lot of longevity are the guys who were doing those things and making sure that they were icing their knees after, or their shoulders or their hips, whatever it might be. stretching before matches, stretching after matches, just taking care of your body, going to the gym and getting some type of workout in, even if and working around your injuries. Because if we waited to work out when we were 100% healthy, we'd never work out because there's always something bothering you. And I think a lot of professional athletes can relate to that. The difference with wrestling is we don't have an off season. And we're being asked to perform, up to 20, maybe 20 times a month in some cases, depending on your schedule and how much you're on the road. So, you might have to wrestle 4 or 5 days in a row, and so the biggest thing is about for us is we always say, work smart, not hard, So it's just about understanding your body's limitations, working around things that you need to work around, and going out there and performing at the best of your ability with those things, in place. And, obviously the eating on the road is a challenge. Finding good food consistently, especially at 11 or 12 at night. I know for me,
what is your strategy for that? Yeah.
Well, for me, man, I've learned to I bring a lot of food with me.
Yeah.
And then whatever town I get into, there's some good apps and websites that kind of locate the different vegetarian and vegan friendly or health food stores in whatever town I'm in. And I always have a cooler with me, a little cooler, and I'll go and I'll buy a few things for the weekend so that I always have food with me so that if I can't find a place to eat or, if the guys want to go to Outback Steakhouse after the show, I've got my packet of black lentils that I'll grab a spinach salad and throw my lentils in, and I'll still get my 40 grams of protein, And so it's just about being prepared and just always having something. So most guys, travel around with packets of tuna and whey protein, and I travel with packets of lentils and on it hemp protein, So it all works out.
Right on, man. Right on. So what else can you tell people about some of the training methods that you guys use, some of the things that you personally have found beneficial to you? Like if you get your opportunity in the gym, what's some of the things that you're focusing on to be able to be, explosive, durable, all of the things that a wrestler needs to be?
Sure. I think that my strategy's changed over the years. I think when I first started out, I knew I had to put some size on. I was only about 150 pounds when I first started wrestling. And so I knew I had to look the part and be durable enough to take the wear and tear. So at that time, it was about trying to lift as heavy as I could and really build that mass. As I've gotten older and as the wear and tear, starts to build up on your body, you have to change that mentality. It doesn't benefit me now to go rack up as much weight as I can on a squat and or a deadlift or a bench because the risks outweigh the reward at this point. So, when I go work out now, it's really more about, you talk about things like durability, balance, core strength, keeping your flexibility, keeping that explosiveness. So, I've been focusing a lot more on those types of movements, using body weight, explosive movements. I got this thing I just was turned on to. It's called Aqualogics, and they're basically these things you hold in your hands and you put around your ankles, and it's for like water workouts, and it's using the resistance of the water, and I love it because I'm in Florida, so I get any chance I get to be outside in the water is awesome because I'm going to get a nice tan and it's going to be a nice scene. But the cool thing about this, like water workouts, especially with these contraptions, is you get to work explosive power, but you're not using any weight. You're just using resistance of water. So there's no real wear and tear on the joints, And, I've had a couple of like really killer 30-minute workouts with that where I was as spent and feel like I was going to throw up, as much as anything I've done in a gym. And because this is how hard you want to push yourself. But, you're using just, the resistance of water and you're trying to move it as fast as you can. So you're working explosiveness, you're working that power. So I'm just trying to, get away a little bit from the conventional thought process of bodybuilding and more to functional strength, functional movements, making sure I'm keeping my posture aligned. I think a lot of guys, we have a tendency to overdevelop the front of our bodies, our shoulders and our chest, and that starts to affect your posture and things like that. So I'm becoming more aware of those things, and I'm really starting to focus on the areas that maybe I kind of neglected over the years, whether it was maybe, I've always had good core, so maybe I neglected really working it out. Well, now as I'm getting older, I want to make sure I'm really keeping that strong, or really start working to get my posture back where it was before I started getting, dropped on my back, 50 times a month. So that to me is where it is. And I think that, and again, as you get older, you have to change your philosophies on weight training, and your body adapts, so it stops being challenged if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So you want to keep it guessing, and keep it fun.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Very in line with what we do here. So the other question I had is, the more I've gotten to know wrestling as an art form and the improvisation that goes on, there has to be times where you really feel in the flow, like just in that great flow state, what other athletes would call being in the zone.
Yeah.
Have you been able to track, back to either something you've done in preparation or something you've brought, some combination of good sleep, good rest, or maybe like what is it that gets you more reliably to that flow state? Because we can all benefit from that. It could be a podcast, it could be, whatever you do. It could be a date that you're on, but when you're in the flow, you can feel it. It's a different operation of your brain. It's something else is going on. And I know that must happen for you. Have you been able to track what helps you get there more reliably?
Well, I mean, obviously things like, listen, if you're taking care of yourself and you're getting good rest and you're eating well and you've been working out, that's going to help you because you're going to have confidence that you're putting yourself in the best position for whatever it is you've got in front of you. Mm-hmm. And because I think at the end of the day, what that zone is, it's unflappable confidence. It's when you walk out of the curtain or you step into the ring or you walk into that date or that job interview or whatever it might be, that you have 100% confidence in what you're going to bring to the table because you put yourself and you put the work in to put yourself in the best position for success. And, I've definitely had certain points in my career where I've really just felt that strongly. And for me, I think the secret to my success is when I do walk out of that curtain, I do have confidence in what I'm going to go out there and be able to do, and not let any outside factors really affect that. And that's true confidence. And I think that's really what the zone is, man. It's just being dialed in, mentally and physically to where you feel confident that you've prepared yourself to be successful. And that obviously starts with the things that you do leading up to it. And you talked about it, whether it's making sure you're well rested, eating well, exercising. Just the effect of exercising alone has such a positive mental, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is because mentally right now I'm not in the zone, man. No, effect. That was the word I'm looking for. Effect. Such a big word, it slipped my mind. But it really does, and this is something I've talked to my mother about over the years because she never really got too much into fitness and exercise. But I was always told her, I said, if you go out and you do something every day to better yourself, exercise, get that blood flowing, no matter what other outside factors you have in your life, you can always hang your hat on the fact that you took the time for yourself to do something to make yourself feel better. To improve yourself. And I think that's something we can all look at. We can't control a lot of things that happen in our life. We just have to manage them. But if we absolutely have the control over what we eat and how we take care of ourselves, and nobody can take that from us. And if we do those things every day, we've got at least that one thing that we can feel good about amongst all the chaos that a lot of times accompanies life.
Yeah, you build that foundation of something that you can rely on no matter what, And if you take care of your body like that, I think my friend Daniele Bolelli has a quote. It's like, when you take care of your body and you know that there's a wild wolf that lives underneath your skin, even when the mind is in doubt, the body will provide tangible proof, So
Sure.
It's like when everything else is going crazy, if you've taken care of that and you have that vitality and that energy, you kind of feel like you could just be dropped off in the wilderness and you'll fucking figure it out. You don't know how,
Sure.
You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if everything just crumbles around you. You're like, I don't know how, I don't know why, but I got this. I feel it. I got a wolf living under my skin. I'm like Austin Aries.
Yeah, man. I've always used the analogy like I'm like a cat. Like it don't matter from how high you throw me off the balcony, I'm gonna land on my feet.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always felt about life. I'm like a cat. Cats always land on their feet, and they got 9 lives. So hey.
And you need them. You need every single one of those if you're a pro wrestler.
Yeah, sometimes. No kidding. I got 4 left, so I'm
good. You're pretty. It's pretty much halfway. A little bit over halfway. Yeah, great. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for all your support and thanks for coming on this podcast. That's awesome. How can people follow you?
On my Twitter at Austin Aries, and then you check out my Instagram, which is at Austin Healy Aries, Healy, my middle name. And then also my website, austinhealyaries.com, which hopefully will be updated with some new cool stuff pretty soon.
And it's Aries like the ram, not like the Greek god of war. Is that right?
Aries like the zodiac sign, not like Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah, for sure.
ARIS. You got it.
All right, my friend. Good to meet you. Good to hang. And anything we can do for you, let us know, man. We're here for you.
I appreciate it, man. That hemp force, man, it's delicious. It's after I tried it a couple times, and it's one of those things that I acquired a taste for really quickly, and now I look forward to it. So that stuff's delicious.
Yeah, likewise, man. I have one this morning. All right, brother.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys. Peace.
All right, see ya.